It is interesting hearing how annoyed millennials are with baby boomers, this heavy old generation who is in charge of society, but simply don't understand what it's like for millennials, who are even more different from their parents than boomers are from theirs. Millennials experience life in the most inverted reality in all of history, the totally artificial reality of the modern city. Millennials are a product of what the baby boomers did with society, and they are truly very different. Unlike boomers, whose parents grew up on farms, knew war and the Great Depression, and submitted to institutions like business, religion, and school, millennials realize that institutions exist to serve them, not the other way around. The hippies in the 1960s pretty much broke historical patterns all over the place. Their fathers before them were sent off to world wars, sending off the sons to kill or be killed, becoming men. However horrible these wars were, most sons had grown up on farms and already knew about life and death, helping to give birth to calves and lambs, feeding pigs, and wringing the chickens' necks for Sunday supper. Then the Great Depression struck, and they lost their farms, knew deep poverty, and after fighting the war, they headed into the city to work in offices and factories and learn how to live under a boss, day in and day out for just a paycheck, in a totally alien environment, the suburbs, consumer society. That's quite the adjustment for one generation. But the hippies and the Vietnam War put an end to all their fathers' nonsense. The kids from the suburbs refused to go off to kill and die. They wouldn't listen to their fathers, the state, or anyone else. Institutions were bad. They saw what their fathers went through and watched as their fathers took over society to make it better. Their fathers had seen the total failure of society, the total fail of business in the Depression, the depths of poverty on the farms, and war. They were going to make life better in the city with social programs like pensions, civil rights, inventing the pill, easy divorce, curing polio, inventing the TV and computer, dropping religion, landing a man on the moon, and even allowed equality. That's quite a list for one generation. The baby boomers resented their fathers for the Vietnam War. The young hippies in the 1960s picked up on their fathers' thrust to change society for the better, but without the benefit of their fathers' experience of horrendous change and loss. The boomers grew up in the suburbs, went to Disneyland, got a university degree back when it was cheap, and got good jobs so they could continue to live in the suburbs for the rest of their lives. A little different from their fathers' lives, who were such a bunch of hard asses, mature, serious, as if reality was really that bad. Fathers needed to take a pill. Millennials are 2 and 3 generations removed from the 1920s generation. Their baby boomer parents have only ever known the suburbs, like themselves, consumer society, the city, technology growing and growing, media and music everywhere you go, and institutional society keeping cities working. There is really no major environmental change between boomers and millennials like there was in the 1960s. There is only an intensified middle-class life in institutions like work, school, the shopping mall, and even at home with all its conveniences. An intense middle-class experience of pure institutional life. The reality of life is inverted from the farm to institutional living in just 2 generations. Now a totally artificial reality of the city. A parent's primary responsibility now is to keep their children safe while driving them to classes, after classes at school, paying for qualified supervision. Kids' lives are filled with these activities, beginning in preschool and daycare, giving the child a jump start in institutional living. Working parents feel an intense obligation and social expectation to give their children all of these experiences as they drive their kids to activities between work. Children are always safe, never out of adult supervision. And the baby boomers thought they were oppressed by their serious, mature fathers. Imagine how they'd react to helicopter parents like themselves. Parents now are critical to teach children institutional living. Institutions exist to serve and supervise children as a service industry. Safety is the bottom line. In the 1930s, if you got the strap, you got the strap at home too. Today, if the school is abusive, the parents sue. And if a teacher finds a bruise on Johnny, Children Aid is called on the parents. Institutions police each other for children's safety. Children soon learn that authority is not one monolithic wall of school, parents, and society, but split apart. And children soon learn how to negotiate between the different authorities from their advantage. Institutions had better live up to their children's expectations, or they are out of work. It's what they're being paid for. Children are now the consumers. Children today go to university to qualify for a job, but a basic degree that cost $8,000 in 1985 now costs $40,000 or more. And a master's degree is the equivalent to a high school diploma in 1965. Imagine your first term at university without the constant supervision a student has experienced throughout childhood. Many students have extreme anxiety, which universities are obligated to supervise for the student's safety. They are institutions as well, a service industry that the students pay a fee for the activity. This is all necessary because children today have many health issues, from multiple food allergies to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But children are safe with the power of their smartphones connected to social media. The power environment serves students, not the other way around. Institutions are scrambling to invert their traditional relationships. And now, many businesses adjust their work environments to serve young workers. Millennials find the old boss-worker relationship oppressive. And business responds by making the workplace more like a weekend, more social, less like a factory with expectations. Reality conforms to them. Life should not be what you do after work. Work should be an extension of life. By adapting to millennials' expectations, business meets its labor requirements. Business is not authority because people have expectations and options. Business is merely one institution that helps create the city environment. Within it, young people are expected to create their own identity. who they are. How will millennials evolve this artificial reality evolved from farm, war, and the 1950s suburbs? Institutions now serve millennials, not the other way around, if authority wants to supervise them. All bets are off in this unknown territory. They are the evolution of baby boomers, where farmers were free in nature, but humbled by its power, and humbled by business power, which collapsed in 1929, and soldiers humbled by World War II. Millennials are free within institutional care that does what they demand, an inverted reality from all of history, where forefathers tamed nature with farming and science, tamed God with religion, and tamed business and government as consumers and voters. Millennials tame them even more with artificial reality, inverting reality from everything that came before.